After years of good video cards being harder to find than toilet paper during a pandemic, I finally managed to get my hands on a EVGA 3080 Ti video card, which I then proceeded to shoehorn into this Phanteks Shift XT case. Now I have to give credit to GGF Events YouTube channel. They built a really cool version of this computer, and it's what inspired me to build my own. I took a short video clip and posted it on YouTube and my personal social media page, and I received a few requests for me to show people how I installed the display panel onto the case. So that is what I'm planning to do. Now, I'm not a professional YouTuber with all the fancy cameras and halo lights and production crews, so I do ask that you please bear with me. But this is what the machine looks like as it's running, and I'm going to go ahead and take it apart and try to walk you through the screen installation. This is the display panel that I purchased, and I'll put a link to it at the bottom of the video. But as you can see, the panel itself is very thin, which allows it to fit perfectly in the front of the Shift XT case. The kit comes with the panel itself, one daughter board, ribbon cable, and another daughter board. Now you have to be careful with the way you connect it. Basically, you plug the panel into this end of the first daughter board, like so. The ribbon cable goes with the blue tape face up between this board and this board. Now, make sure you don't connect it like this, otherwise you're going to end up with a spare panel that doesn't work. Yeah. Now on this board you'll see the HDMI connector and a micro USB connector. The board itself is powered by the micro USB connector, and the HDMI allows you to plug it into one of the HDMI ports on your video card. I used a ribbon cable to connect the board to the video card. I'll post a link to the cable that I used, but it works perfectly because it's like flat cable and it goes right through the crack of the back of the case, and it's got a 90-degree connector on the other end, so it allows for a really flush connection. As far as the micro USB, I purchased a micro USB to USB header cable, which allows me to power the display board through one of the empty USB headers on my motherboard. And I'll post a link to that USB header cable as well at the bottom of the video. Okay, here's one last look before I take it all apart. So there's the screen, and if you look in the back, you'll see where the ribbon HDMI cable comes out and plugs flush into the back of the video card. So it works pretty well. And since I'm using a USB header to power the card or the video display, there's no big thick USB cable coming out through the back to connect to the slot in the back of the board. Okay, so let's take the case apart. We'll start with taking the top cover off. Just comes right off. It's being held by a couple of little magnets here. The bottom, this is where your power switch is. If you shift it up, you'll see the USB connections, a couple of other switches. Then if you just use both thumbs and push it up some more, you'll hear the click, and it comes right off. So here you can see the power switch. This is the glass for the infinity mirror that it originally comes with, and you'll have several screws here that will need to come off. So we'll just take these out. Okay, so a total of 6 screws, and this whole part should be able to just come right out. Just have to finagle it a little bit. And voila. Now, since I already have the video card installed, it's kind of hard to see, but if you look under here, you will see 4 screws that hold this plastic piece, which is what causes the infinity effect. Goes right there. And all you do is take those screws out. Then you have to kind of pry this mirror out, or the glass for the mirror, very carefully so that you don't crack it. Okay. Slides right out. Okay, so here you'll see where I have the display screen already installed. And basically, like I said, you remove this piece here. There'll also be a couple of these diffusers for the LEDs that come along the sides. Just pull those out. You can leave the LEDs in there if you want, or you can take them off. And I personally used little double-sided Velcro strips underneath the panel just to hold it in place. But as you can see, it fits pretty well. I also added this little piece of plastic down here to cover a gap that was left. You don't really see it anyway, but it's just something that I wanted to do. One other thing that I still need to do is cover this little edge of the display panel with some black tape or a little strip of plastic so that you don't see the light that shines at the end. But other than that, let's move this over and I'll show you. The other part that I did here is I used a Dremel tool to cut a hole or a slot right here, and another slot right there. And that's basically the most difficult part of this whole endeavor. And you'll probably want to do this prior to building the computer itself. So you want to make this the first part of your build, because when you cut this slot right here, you're going to have a lot of tiny little metal shavings that go all over the place, and you don't want that stuff getting into your motherboard or your super expensive video card. Now, I'd like to be able to remove the display screen so you can see exactly how the cable goes through, but my bright idea of using double-sided Velcro so that I can easily remove the screen turned out not to work so well, because that Velcro holds on really tight, and I tried prying it out, and it just gets a little bit too sketchy. I don't want to break this screen just for, by trying to remove it. But here's basically how it goes. I'll use my spare screen. It goes in like this, fits right there, and you, like I said, just find whatever way you want to use to hold it in place. And the slot that you cut through the plastic and through the metal chassis is for this ribbon cable. I also added some additional tape around this part of the cable just so that it won't chafe against the metal where we cut the slot. So that ribbon goes right through the plastic, through the case, and into the other side, which I'll show you in a minute. Now, before proceeding to doing the rest of the installation, you'll want to finish this part up first. Use a little cloth to wipe out all the finger juice from the screen. Okay, and we'll install the glass back in. Now, this particular glass was designed for the infinity mirror, and it is very reflective. So if you want to get your own little piece of glass that's not as reflective as this, or if you want to put some sort of a film on it, that might work well for you. But it basically just goes right back in here and snaps back into place right there. Okay, so you want to make sure you put the screws all back in so that this is nice and secure and you don't have to worry about the screen falling out and cracking or anything like that. And let's take the top and bottom panels off of this puppy so you can take a look at the rest. Now you'll see I have some white tape around here. This was just a test to see if I can cover the gap between the fans and the radiator to improve airflow. It seems to work okay, but the heat is melting the tape. This thing gets really hot up here, especially after you've been gaming for a while, which is why I call it the toaster. Anyway, so let me take the bottom panel off. Okay, so as you can see, the cable from the display screen comes out right through there. There's the slot that I created using the Dremel tool. And I ran it into the small daughter board. And I just glued that to the front of the case here. Then I've got the ribbon cable coming out of it. And the SSD tray, for me at least, made a perfect spot for the other daughter board. Now, if you have an SSD already here, I'm sure you can find another place for it, maybe around here or over here. Now, this is the HDMI cable, the ribbon cable that I have. And as you can see, it just runs straight out through the back and plugs right into the video card. Further down, kind of hard to see, but the micro USB cable is plugged right there. Let's see if I can put some light on it. Kind of hard to see, but it plugs right there, and I have it running through the bottom of the case and onto the other side where the video card is located. Sorry, I didn't mean the video card, I meant the motherboard. And it goes right down there where I had a free USB header. Now that adapter works perfectly, and you don't have to have a USB plug going into the back of the case to power the display panel. You do have to make sure that you plug in the USB header cable correctly, because otherwise you may damage the board. And here's how the connection goes. Now, you'd think that you need to buy a 9-pin USB header to micro USB connector, but those are really hard to find. I managed to get a 5-pin USB header to micro USB, and all I did is plug it onto this side right here. So I just made sure that the red power was at the top and the black ground is at the bottom. The other cables are really not necessary because all you're doing is providing cable to the daughter board. And that's pretty much it. I mean, it's not that difficult of a thing to do, and it looks pretty cool. I mean, you're basically just adding another monitor to the front of your computer. So you can either put temperature stats using different software packages that will allow you to do that, or you can put your own screensaver or whatever you want to do on there. I mean, like I said, it's just another monitor. So if you have 2 monitors, this will be your 3rd monitor, or if you have 1 monitor, this will be your 2nd monitor. Here's the rest of the setup that I have. Now this Phanteks cooler seems to work okay, but it is a little bit noisy. I also used the Phanteks Revolt UPS. It's a 750 watt platinum rated power supply, which is pushing it a little bit, but I've stress tested the heck out of this thing, and I've had no issues with either power or thermal throttling. I'll show you guys the top. So as you can see, the RTX 3080 Ti just barely fits in this case, and there's a real issue with the power cables. Now, originally I had just shoved them in there, and I put a little grate on one of the fans for the radiator so that the cables don't get jammed into the blades. But then I later found these little adapters which work great for the first 2 connections, but not the 3rd, because there's just too much room needed between the side of the center spline of the case and where the connector goes. So instead, I bought an extension cable, a 90-degree extension cable that seems to be doing the job pretty well, and that allows me to close the lid without any issues regarding the power cables getting smashed up against the fans. And that's pretty much it. As you can see, I've left the LED lights on the sides that were originally for the infinity mirror. I'm not sure if I'm going to leave them on or turn them off or what, but that's your own personal decision. The software that I'm using to display the CPU temps and fan speeds is called ADA 64 Extreme. I'll put a link to that as well at the bottom of the video. But feel free to post any questions you might have regarding the installation. I'll be happy to do my best to answer them for you. Or if you have any suggestions on how I can improve on the setup, I'm all ears. I'm just always wanting to figure ways to make things even better. So please feel free to comment. And like I said, I hope you found this helpful. All right, thanks. Bye.